And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Always Pressing PGA DFS podcast, previewing the 2019 Byron AT&T Byron Nelson Classic. Give them their proper dues because they aren't paying me, but we'll give them the proper dues. You can find me on Twitter at BDintric. You can find the podcast at Always Press DFS, and my co-host, as always, find him on Twitter at DFS Golf Gods. Jesse, how we doing, man?
Doing well, dude.
Good.
That's it.
Good. Keeping it clean. Do we have a Kentucky weather update?
Yeah, it just fucking rains all the time. Living in a rainforest. That's it.
Oh, beautiful stuff there. We'll just get right at it then. If that's how we're living. The Wells Fargo wrapped up. Rory had a good weekend. Kind of disappeared on Sunday, but Twitter's own, let's call him Twitter's own, Max Homa dominated. He gained almost 10 strokes putting this week. He was something special. The celebration was great. This is a guy that I was reading, like Kevin Price, our buddy from the web.com, was talking about how he had to birdie 4 straight holes in Portland last year just to qualify to be on tour this year, and he did that. And now here he is winning $1.4 million and one of the toughest courses in golf. Any thoughts on Max Homa taking down the Wells Fargo?
I don't much. I didn't get to watch much golf this weekend. But, man, it just continues to be like a bunch of guys out of nowhere winning this year. Adam Long, Max Homa now, and then I'm sure we could come up with a huge list of them, but man, pretty cool. I don't know if you saw, but Phil Mickelson also commented on it and said, Max is a good guy, a funny guy, and good for golf. So, man, predicting golf is so hard.
Yeah, it's great. It is. It's crazy because, like you mentioned, Adam Long, CT Pan. I think there's one other one, all like way over 100 to 1 odds, way over 100 to 1 odds.
I don't know what Cam Champ was when he won, but yeah,
true.
I'm sure he was decently long because he never won on tour, obviously.
Yeah, so some big boys are I'm not gonna say little guys, but new guys are turning into big boys real quickly on tour. So it's gonna be fun. Like when we preview the Tournament of Champions next year, it's gonna be pretty wild.
Yeah, and one thing I saw on Twitter today, I can't remember who tweeted it, but this was the second time this year that the 417th ranked golfer in the world won. Adam Long was the first one, obviously, in California, and then now Max Homa.
Exactly 417?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
They were both 417 when they won. Something around
the odds
there.
Of that is insane.
Don't 100% quote on me, but it was way back, and they were the same rank. Yeah, it's been quite a year. And also, too, I mean, Jason Duffner being in the mix there. I know we haven't really moved on to that segment of other guys, but Jason Duffner, who missed every cut this year and then finally made one at the Heritage and switched his putters, which, I was thinking, man, like that's really the kind of content that we need. Like going into the week, Jason Duffner's got this new putter.
Yep.
Then I might give him a little bit more of a look just because, man, I know how it is when you play golf. If I got a new putter, I'm not thinking so much about the technicalities of it or whatever. Your mind is a little bit different thinking, and so it makes you hit the golf ball differently. And he showed it he's still sketchy as shit from like 5 feet in, but he made a bunch of putts on Friday to shoot 63 and get up there, and then he had a blow all weekend, but.
Yeah, no, having like some beat reporters that actually reported on what they're seeing in practice rounds and stuff would be pretty nice. It would definitely be helpful.
Yeah.
There is a niche for that for sure. I know some people have mentioned it and it didn't get received very well. And that seems kind of odd with the world of DraftKings and just fantasy golf growing so much, with the world of legalized sports betting growing so much. You might want to get everything out there on an even playing field, you'd think, because you got to know some people know that he had a new putter, but not very many.
Right.
So I don't know how you want to justify it. It'd be nice. I don't know if we're ever going to get it, but it'd be nice.
We won't. I mean, it's just one of those things in golf where it's individual sport. Like, just unless like Tiger Woods switches putters, we're not going to ever hear about Jason Duffner is coming off 7 straight missed cuts and finally made 1 cut at the Heritage and finished 63rd switching putters. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm not sitting here going to say like I would have definitely played him, but I would have given him thought. I had no thought towards Max Homa or Jason Duffner this week.
No, and I was going to ask that because like Max Homa, his interview, it's come out. They've advertised it a lot more, and other people have advertised it. The No Lane Up pod from like last year with Max Homa, because the No Lane Up guys, they started out kind of getting to know the web.com guys before they kind of went big, which is how you do it. And that Max Homa was really good. It was like humbling. He was talking about how much because he dominated in college. This guy was like a top notch golfer, and then it just disappeared. It's like you play the game a lot, Jesse. I play the game a lot. There's certain days like you've been playing good for a few weeks and you just get out there and it's just gone. Like you don't know what the hell's going on. You can't do anything you want to do. And he lost it. Like his whole game disappeared. He talks about it and how like each week was just a grind to make the cut, this, that, and the other. And it was very interesting. If you look at his numbers this year, it was a lot of missed cuts and a couple of good tournaments. But he's a good dude, good Twitter guy. It was good to see him win. I'm curious to see where he keeps going because you mentioned Adam Long. He really hasn't done too much since then. There's a lot of that kind of stuff going on, so we'll see how Adam Long or Max Homa does for sure.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's hard to. I think for these guys, it's hard to bounce back from that, but they most certainly can.
Yep, they definitely can. So that'll be fun to see where he picks up. JT's a buddy of his, and he already basically tweeted out yesterday that, and like you said to Phil, a lot of these guys are good friends with him. That's how you can tell Max is a good dude. So like JT tweets out. Something like congrats because they played college events together and a bunch of other events. He's like, I have a good feeling that Max is going to party hard tonight. And then first thing this morning, Max withdraws from the Byron Nelson Classic. So life is good with him. A couple other things we can move on, just minor things that make Max kind of such a fun story. When you win your first tournament and your first ever tweet is a GIF of Michael Jordan in the finals, that's pretty solid. The GIF, you'll have to go check it out. That was pretty funny stuff. And then just the overall, just like we talked about already, the outpouring of other PGA players. It was pretty cool to see him do what he did. Luke Donald had a good tweet just about how the whole game of golf's in really good spots like we've talked about before. So it's cool. It's really cool to see. And that's why, I always talk about it. And we'll talk about it this week. The field's not loaded this week, but it's fun because you get a lot of guys like the Max Homas of the world that you might not know about and they might not win it, but they'll contend. At least they become on your radar. Like, who they are from good weeks. And by no means am I saying it's fun. It makes doing what we're about to do very difficult, but it makes it intriguing.
Yep.
Any other thoughts? I was tilting my brain off because after day one, I was looking beautiful. I was like -1 or better. Then Gary Woodland goes off the rails towards the end of round one. Then he withdraws in round 3. JB Holmes decided that he didn't want to play golf this week. That was something special. He withdrew after going 9 over the first day. And I didn't even hear a report about an injury or anything. He literally said, yep, I'm out. No way I'm going low, even though a few guys went low on Friday. But those were tilt my face off moments. I had a lot of guys that had great first rounds and then disappeared in the second round. So 1, 5, 6, and that had JB with it. It got home. It cashed, but the other 2 lineups, not so much. Anything you want to mention on your DK week? Just thoughts on the rest of the tournament?
I was about the same, except for I had a 5 of 6 that did not cash because Rory McIlroy decided to back up. But yeah, dude, what about Phil? The first fucking time that we're on this guy in forever, 15 of 15 made cuts at Quail Hollow, and what did he shoot on Friday? Like
he went
85.
Yeah, it was bad. Bad news bears. He
must have got. The only thing I can think is that he got a call and somebody's like, you need to come up here to Louisville for the Derby. There's going to be a 67-1 shot that's going to win this thing.
I think it was
EQ.
Yeah, Tom Brady wants your calf recipe, and he wants to know how to fix his calves. Can you come up here quickly, please? Something along those lines.
I don't know, dude. He lost it. Like, he was just hitting it everywhere. That was one of the more bizarre things.
Like some of those performances last week from some of the guys we kind of trusted with good track records. Because you look at the leaderboard, there's some good players, but like you said, and they're all good. Never mind.
Well, there's some really good players. Yeah, you had Rose up there, Fowler,
exactly.
Sergio. I mean, it was a good leaderboard.
But it was also littered with some other guys, and it almost felt like it was what this week might be, where some guys kind of take the week off getting ready for a major. It was almost like a week earlier we saw some weird stuff kind of taking place.
What about your boy Pat Perez?
I did not say. I saw him going into the week and doing okay. How did he finish?
I don't know where he finished, but he played. I mean,
he played well. We talked about him last week. We were curious on where he'd be. First event back in a while, and he we know Flat Bill, when he's locked in, he's at least a good cash game play week in and week out. He might not contend, but he's a cut making machine. And that's something to pay attention to because he's in this field again today, or that we'll talk about tonight. So be interesting to see how Flat Bill does.
Yep.
All right, let's move on to the AT&T Byron Nelson Classic. I'll get to the course preview in a moment. But Jesse, any past event history? It's only been at this course one time. But what do you got for it?
Yeah, so the last year, 2018, was the first year at Trinity Forest Golf Club in Dallas. So really the rest of the winners don't matter. But Aaron Wise shot 23 under and beat Mark Leishman by 3 shots. As far as the event goes, which these winners were at a different golf course, TPC something. Billy Horschel, Sergio Garcia's won this twice. Mr. Stephen Bowditch is a past champion here. Jason Duffner's won this tournament before. Jason Day, Rory Sabatini also. He actually holds the 72 hole tournament record at 261 total, which is 19 under. I'm not going to get into everything, but long story short, in 2009, your boy Sabs, who's again priced outrageously high this week, but we'll get there.
So I was going to say, last week he thought 77 was high, and he finished 18th, which is outstanding. Great. Yeah, we'll get into what this week's price is here shortly. And when I took my notes on my price point breakdowns, like we got to that point, I'm like, holy shit. Yeah. Like, I love the man, but he'll be low owned. Let's put it that way. All right. You mentioned first year last year at Trinity Forest Golf Course. It's a Crenshaw and core design. I believe I totally screwed up that one. But par 71, 7,371 yards. They changed a couple holes around. It's pretty much the same deal, but they lengthened a couple par 3s, made them a little harder to get to, and then they shortened a par 4 to make it a little more exciting. Core and Crenshaw. Yeah, I got that right. But overall, it was crazy last year, like you said, the scoring, because it was dry. Guys were talking about, Leishman was talking about hitting his 3-wood 300 yards. There are no trees out here. From those who remember last year, it was built on a landfill. There's no trees. There's no water. There's 85-plus bunkers. There's ginormous greens, like huge greens. Some of the greens shared greens, so they're like double the size of what you'd expect. It's huge. There's a lot going on this golf course. Short game is important because it's kind of a link style deal where there's sometimes there's runoff, some up and down, kind of punching and running type things. Adam Scott and some others were saying last year you want to hit it about 30 to 40 yards short and run things up there. That's kind of the philosophy. Since there is no trees, though, if wind picks up, it can be interesting. And currently nothing really windy yet, but it might get there towards the weekend. It's been really wet there. The superintendent was saying over 1.5 inches of rain recently. And if it keeps raining like it's supposed to off and on this week, slight chances Thursday and Friday, like 40% chances on Friday. This course is going to play much, much longer than it did last year. So scoring might be a little difficult, or it's just bomb and gouge and go to town. It's so wide open. Like if you miss left, you miss right, you're not going to be in super big trouble. The rough is there, but it's not crazy unless it does rain. Then it might get thicker than normal because it's hard to maintain that. But all in all, super wide fairways that run out a ton. You don't need to. It's a less than driver course because of the run out. If it rains a lot, the driver guys will have an advantage, but still it'll play pretty well for everybody. Other than that, there's not too much to it. It's just wide open. And you look at the scoreboard last year, all different types of golf games. It's not just one single type of golfer gets it done here. What's your thoughts? What's your key stats you're looking for here, Jesse?
Yeah, getting off the tee is important, or at least it was last year. So I'll be waiting driving distance, or you can, wait, obviously, strokes gained off the tee. And then hitting greens again. I'm obviously going to, with the scores last year, assuming it holds, birdie or better would be my my go-to as far as scoring goes. And if I'm on Fantasy National, looking at proximity and opportunities gained as well. These greens are massive, so obviously if you're not hitting it exactly where you want, you may still hit the green. So you could also include 3-putt avoidance in there if you'd like. Because from what I remember here last year, it's wide open, little to no rough, and just some really cool looking greens. It reminds you of like a British Open type of golf course.
Yeah, they call it the American Links.
Yeah,
so,
I mean it's a cool looking set up. I remember everything was kind of brown last year. And then they've got Bermuda greens, right? You said that?
Yes, Bermuda greens, like best of the best type Bermudas. And they're about 10.5 to 11 on the stem. They're rather slow in case it does get windy. That's why they're that slow.
Yeah. So that's the kind of the defense of the golf course is the wind. And obviously, I'm guessing we didn't have, I don't remember last year. I'm guessing we didn't have any last year. And if we don't have any this year, expect the scores to be pretty low. So you need some birdie makers.
Yep, most definitely. All right, a little bit of fan cheer for you guys coming in good form. DraftKings scoring wise, last 3 events, Kevin Na leads the way. Yes, Kevin Na, 85 DK points on average. Lucas Bjerregaard, Henrik Stenson, Tomas Peters, Fratelli, Brooks. Brooks is all the way down to 6. Brendan Todd, Leishman, and Matt Jones. So it's a hell of a set of names there, folks, in this tournament. Looking at DraftKings finishers from last year, you would expect most of these kind of in order of how they finished, but also you're talking birdie makers. You have Aaron Wise. He's 146 DK points, made 25 birdies. Brendan Grace made 24 birdies. JJ Spawn 25. Ryan Blom 26 for 117 DK points. Jimmy Walker played here as well as he likes to do on Texas courses. So a couple names there. You can get a cool little rundown of the event last year. We're looking over there at FanShare on the results from last year's tournament. Then guys in good course form through the 1 year here, and then good course history, our current form in course history. Aaron Wise, Leishman, he's the one that went like 10 under in day 1 and kind of held on but didn't do much. Kevin Na is another guy. Matt Jones and Rory Sabatini is coming in great form and decent course history. With all that being said, Jesse, let's get into the DraftKings pricing. It's a weird field, as we would expect for this deal. 10K and above, you got Brooks at 11.4, Hideki at 11,000, Spieth at 10.8, Stenson 10.3, Leishman at 10,000. What are you liking here?
Yeah, this is I mean, it's just hard for some of these guys to be this high priced, in my opinion. But I think Brooks is obviously well deserving to be the overall price. Rates out number 1 on my model on Fantasy Labs. So do like him quite a bit. Hideki would be my next choice at 11,000. The other 3, of the other 3, Mark Leishman would be the guy that I would kind of look at there. Obviously finished second here last year. His form coming in is just kind of odd. Was playing really well early on in the season and has fallen off a little bit. Miscut at the Players' Championship and then 49th at the Masters and 58th at the Heritage. Never really had a whole lot of success at the Heritage, though, so I don't weight that a whole heck of a lot, but he definitely played better at the Masters last year coming into this. So he's interesting at 10,000. I just wonder if everybody will see his second place finish last year and then kind of start piling on. That would be my only kind of concern with him. I would, if he's going to be high owned, I would go the other way. I would go Brooks or Hideki. But then again, if he's not getting touted that much and he's going to be lower owned, then I think he's a fine play. He saves quite a bit of money too over obviously Brooks.
Yeah, Brooks is by far and away the elite of the elite in this field. If you're going to pay for Brooks, would be the way I look at it. Other than him, though, I like your Leishman take. If he's high, I don't know, nothing to do with him, but he could be in for a very nice one. Course history, he likes these link style courses. A lot of these Australians and Euro guys will play in wind and links very well, so you're going to see a lot of that on my picks at least. And then the other guy, just out of curiosity, when I see his ownership, he'll have my attention probably. Is Henrik Stenson. Not the greatest form. It's been getting better week in and week out. T24, T36, T28 his last 3 events. It's just that 3-wood. He's starting to get that thing locked in. And if that 3-wood is locked in on this course, he can, and without a lot of trouble in the way, this could be a week for Stenson to get back in it. He is still a top, 40 or 50 player in the world. So someone to keep in mind. But it is ugly form like some of these guys up here. But it's Brooks all the way, and then Stenson and Leishman both have my attention based on ownership. But ideally, I probably won't be up here at all. That's probably where I'll be. I'll be playing my fact down below, most likely.
Yeah, you got to find that guy in the 6K who's ranked like 420th in the world is going to win this week, right?
Yeah, exactly. Who is this week's Max Homa? That is the question. Let's go into the 9K range here. You got Patty Reed, $9,800. Great first 2 days. Disappeared on the weekend. His wife must have told him they had plans. Sunjay M, $9,600. Aaron Wise, the defending champion at 94. I can't wait to see that ownership number. Brendan Grace, 92. Keith Mitchell, 91. And Rory Sabatini, $9,000. Never thought I'd see that day, Jesse. Never thought I'd see it.
Yeah, I'm just the only thing I can think of is that DraftKings weighted tournament history.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm rather confused. He did play here last year and finished 13th. So, and obviously the field is weak. He's coming off 2 straight top 20s. He started really bad last week. He shot 76 on Thursday. I thought he was just going to wreck everything. Because I did play him, but he bounced back really nicely so he's 5 over to 5 under the next day. And had a decent weekend there. So I like Sabatini at 9,000 now. I hope that people don't like the price tag and don't play him. But I do think that the top 10 upside is there, and that's really all you're looking for with a guy priced right there. My second favorite play would be Keith Mitchell. I know you mentioned him last week. Does like the Bermuda Greens, finished third here last year, coming off that top 10 there at the Wells Fargo. Sad I missed that, but I like him. I think he could, he could fare well here, where you can just knock it way the fuck out there, and then try to make a putt. And then lastly, Aaron Wise, man, obviously the winner last year, 9,400, 2 straight top 20s on tour, 17th at the Masters, 18th last week at the Wells Fargo. But his form is just odd. Arguably last year he was second at the Wells Fargo coming in before his victory here, and his finishes last year were kind of sort of the same. So, but I think he's playable. I just, it's really hard to stomach paying 9,400 for Aaron Wise, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think people will flock to him as the defending champion. They've seen a couple decent weeks in a row, not great by any means. But Sabatini, I'm surprised you said it, because I'm with you. I think $9,000, the fact he's priced so high, like for me, he's almost a cash game. Lock him in for me as a top high end guy. I have confidence in him making the cut. Now where he'll finish there is the question. But in a field like this, he's showing he can compete, and he likes playing down here in Texas, and just overall he's playing really, really well. So I like Sabs at $9,000, and I have a feeling he's gonna come in super low owned. He'll let you maybe eat some more chalk in the 8s and 7K range instead of having to dip down and get crazy. So I do like Sabatini at 9,000, and I love Killer Keith Mitchell at $9,100. I'm a big fan of this. Awesome week last week, 10th. Finished third here last year. It can be a bomb and gouge week, especially if it gets a little wet like it might get. And he's got those kind of tools in the bag. He loves those Bermuda Greens. He's there. You can look online and see some quotes from this tournament last year. And Keith likes this course a lot. He was talking about how much he liked how it fit his eye and everything. So I really like Keith at $9,100. Curious to see what his ownership is as more and more people are coming accustomed to playing him out there. But I think he's very, very interesting. Aaron Wise, if the ownership's low somehow, I'm slightly intrigued, but I don't see it being low. And then Patrick Reed, he's always low owned. I think he's like 8% last week. He's a very, very good golfer. He has his issues mentally, personality-wise, you name it, he's got it. But at $9,800, if he comes in low owned, he's good enough to win at this course. So I'd rather have Reed over Leishman and Stenson personally. That's just me. So I'm going to keep my eye on Reed as well. So for me, it's Mitchell, Reed, Sabatini, kind of in that order, what I'd like in this 9K range, but we'll kind of see what the ownership does for me. 8K, you got Kevin Na at $8,900, Ryan Moore at 88, Lucas Biergard at 87, RCB at 86, Chucky Three Sticks at 85, Piercy 84, Tomas Peters 83, Alex Noren 82, Torbjorn Olesen 81, and Russell Knox 8,000, and Ryan Palmer 8,000. This is a range I will make at least one lineup of all $8,000 guys. I really like this range. What's your thoughts here, Jesse?
Yeah, well, let's get this out of the way. Is it an RCB week?
Yes, big fan of RCB this week. I'll tell you right now, he's 45-1, and that is a play. I'm a big fan of RCB this week.
I do think he'll be
mispriced.
I do think he could be chalky.
That's where you differentiate elsewhere, is all I'm saying. I think RCB is a great play this week.
Well, either that or you fade him for that reason. So that's I never get him right. So I don't know.
Well, you don't play him. Let me play him.
I trust you. Well, I'm gonna have to play him. I got too much FOMO on that. So I think he is playable. But my other my more favorite plays in this range, Scott Piercy somehow, some way is showing up way high on the model here. Finished 32nd here last year, coming off a third at the Heritage. Just kind of Scott Piercy around 50th a couple times, a miscut, and then some 10th, some top 20s, shit like that. So at 84, he's like borderline cash game playable, I think, in this field. Thomas Peters, Tomas, whatever you want to call him, he reminds me of like an angry Keith Mitchell.
Yeah,
I think Keith I think Keith Mitchell's got a better temper probably, but Thomas tends to break clubs over his knees and stuff. But like when he's good, he is like if he brings his A game, he's in my opinion he's a $10,000 player in this field. But will he bring his A game? That obviously that's the question. But for a GPP, I like him quite a bit at 8,300. I don't know how popular he will be. He's been playing mostly Euro Tour, so most people like your run of the mill, dude isn't going to know him. So I could see him having some ascending ownership from the $5 up to the 444. So being lower owned in the $5 versus the 444. So just kind of depending where you play there. But the other two plays here for me would be Thorborn Olsen. Never played here, but did play the Masters, played the Players Championship, made both cuts. So I don't mind him at 8,100 in this field. And then Russell Knox, man, 8,000. Missed the cut at the Heritage, but last year he finished 16th here, and he made a bunch of cuts in a row before that. So I'm just going to ignore that missed cut at the Heritage and hope he can bring his better game this week. And I like him at 8,000. So.
Yeah, we have a lot of similarities here. RCB kind of already drooled about that long enough. Big fan of RCB this week at $8,600. He'll be a core play of mine. I love the Piercy call. I didn't know if you're going to be on him or not. Cash games, he's close. GPP, big time because he's got such bigger boom, like buster boom potential. He's a long hitter. Like we said many times already, this course doesn't have a lot of trouble to get into. Obviously, if you get too stupid, you can find yourself in trouble. But a big layout like this is kind of wide open. Plays really well in a guy like Scott Piercy's game. So $8,400 for Piercy, I like. And then I love the Tomas Peters call. This guy literally, let's put it this way. If you can make a Ryder Cup team, you're a really good golfer. Tomas Peters is a very good golfer, and somehow he's $8,300 in this field. It's very confusing. It's a lot to do with his inconsistencies and his not playing on the PGA Tour as much. But this is an elite golfer. Like you said, if he shows up, this dude you can see him top 10 in it pretty easily, if not winning this event. So I like Thomas Peters or whatever you want to say quite a bit. Big fan of him at $8,300. We're very much on the same page here. I had Thorborn Olsen again at $8,100. Another upper echelon European Tour player coming over to this event. I like that quite a bit. What's your thoughts on Alexander Noren at 82? His form is garbage, but man, he's so good.
Yeah, I was a much bigger fan at the Heritage or the Masters. When did we talked about him at the Heritage, right? I think.
Yeah, I think you were T25 or T26, something
28th.
Like that.
He finished 28th. Is that where we talked about him? Because he was $7,000 at the Heritage.
It was ridiculous his price at the Heritage.
Yeah,
we paid it off at 28th.
Yeah. He was super low owned. So you would think he'd be low owned here again. Obviously the pedigree is there, but the form has not been this year so far. Maybe he figured something out at the Heritage, had a week off, and is able to bring it back here. He should be low owned again.
Yeah, he's going to be on my
radar. If it was 1% at the Heritage at 7,000, he should be low. He should be below 10% at 8,200 here.
Yeah, I like him based on as the week goes on, I'll kind of pay attention to that a little more. Lucas Bjerregaard, interesting to see what his ownership could be. And then Kevin Na, $8,900. This is where I rode Kevin Na last year, and he was contending for quite a while. Kind of fell off late. $8,900. I can go back to that Kevin Na. Well, I love this 8K range. I really, really like this range a lot. If I had to pick like two or three, it's RCB, it's Peters, and it's Piercy. That little group in the middle there. But I can make an argument or hear an argument for almost everybody in this range. Big fan of the 8K range. It's where you can differentiate your lineup quite a bit if you really want to, or you eat the chalk like I will and we go somewhere else. Very simple. 7K range, Jesse, 7,500 and above. Who you like in there?
I'll start up top with Scotty Scheffler. I think he got like the final exemption from like the actual tournament or whatever. But he played at the University of Texas, and he's currently ranked third on the Web.com tour with 5 top 10s in 2019. That's courtesy of at Mintz Golf, Ron Mintz. I knew I saw something about that earlier. He actually rates out pretty highly on my model. So the good thing about Fantasy Labs is they bring in stats from all the other tours. It's obviously not strokes gain stats, but it's, web.com stats, as far as greens and regulation, driving accuracy, driving distance, so on and so forth. Second at the Nashville Golf Open last week. Seventh the week before that. He played the Texas Open. He finished 20th. I like him quite a bit at 7,900. I hope that he's low owned. I don't know if he'll go under the radar or whatever, but I like him quite a bit at 7,900. We're doing the whole 7K, right?
75 and above.
Okay. All right. Pat Perez, 7,700. I mean, he showed me enough last week. We already mentioned him. 70. I don't know.
Finished 8th.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know what his ailment was, and that was with a 74 on Sunday.
Final round. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. He shot in the 60s all 3 rounds previous to Sunday. So, he was feeling it, and that was really a lot of good scrambling. But either way, I'll go back to him at 7,700 this week. He's kind of the Daniel Berger that I talked about last week, which Daniel Berger's another guy at 7,500 who I think is playable again. But Trey Mullinax would be the other guy besides Berger. He's the stats model put together on Fantasy National. He actually ranks pretty highly over the last 12 rounds. So I'm feeling him this week. He's tilting to me because I don't get him right, but I think he's most definitely playable. He's never played here, just 1 year. He didn't play here last year, basically. But 50th Wells Fargo, 16th at Heritage, missed the cut at the Texas Open. I mean, he's up and down, but at 7,600, I think he's got the upside there to maybe be like this year's Aaron Wise or something.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. What do you think CT Pan's ownership is going to be after winning the Heritage?
I would say next to none.
Because he didn't play last week.
Yeah.
You think he's still that low?
Yeah, people forgot about it already. I would think. I mean, he finished 32nd here last year too. So
if he's low, I'm intrigued.
Yeah,
that iron play will go a long ways here if it's rolling out the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of him.
Not a must play by any means. I'm just saying that because I think Scheffler's gonna be popular. What you mentioned, I've already heard Mayo mention him a couple times and a few others, and that's why I think it could be a pivot.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I could see that for sure. Justin Harding's another guy there that would, he could potentially pivot off of too. I didn't realize that Mayo I hadn't listened to Mayo or anything, so I didn't realize he had mentioned him.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It doesn't always work that way, but
no, it does. No, let's be honest. Dude's getting like 10,000 listens a week. I mean,
yeah, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, CT will be interesting if he's super low, and I like his just overall play, especially for like cash games. I like what CT can bring to the table for you. Jimmy Walker will be interesting. I know he's not coming in the best of forms, but he's still making cuts right now. It's just not winning, so maybe more cash game than GPP. But Texas courses, Jimmy Walker, it's a narrative unlike any other. So 7,700. A guy I like, I mentioned him last week, and he finished 13th. He had a 6th the week before at the Heritage. Is Seamus Powers coming in really, really good form. I know he missed the cut at the Valero, but then prior to that, a T44, a missed cut, a T35, a missed cut. That's Seamus to a T, but back-to-back weeks playing really well, making a lot of birdies. A lot of birdies out there. Even when he's missing cuts, he's making a lot of birdies. So Seamus Power at 77 does have my attention. I like your Pat Perez call. I'm with you there. And then the last guy I'll mention at 7,500 and above. I actually have two. Kevin Tway. He's a local, I believe he's a Texas boy from what I heard before. He likes playing in the wind. So $7,600, and he's a bomber. Someone to think about if he's there. He's not coming in the best form as he finished 36th at the Masters, but then had like 6 straight missed cuts for that. So buyer beware there, but could be a super low on play. And then Dylan Fratelli. It's a guy I've been on a lot this year just because he's a consistent poker and prodder. T24 at the Wells Fargo. He's made 4 straight cuts, 5 of his last 6. And some of those were pretty tough courses. So Fratelli at 75 has my attention as well. Who do you like below $7,500?
Start up at 74 with Brian Stewart. 42nd here last year, 16th at the Heritage, 4th at the Texas Open. miscut Corrales, but 18th again at the Valspar there. So I like him quite a bit at 7,400. Sam Burns, man, he burned me last week. So I had one team that had both WDs prior to the Woodland WD. So I had JB and Sam Burns on the same fucking team with Justin Rose, of course, who ends up beating Rory and probably scoring more points. I don't know where each one of them ended up, but I don't know what I don't know why. I mean, he shot 77 on Thursday. Maybe he just had the JB-itis and just said, "F it, I'm out." I'm not coming back from this. I'm not really sure. Be interesting to see if there's any news on him this week because he should have major depressed ownership. He was almost 15% owned, which surprised me. He was 20% owned in cash games, which again surprised me. I'm super confused why everybody's was on Sam Burns. I mean, obviously come off the top 10 at the Heritage, whatever. But anyways, so he'll be one to monitor. If we don't have any news about him, I would probably be totally fine with playing him. Troy Merritt at 7,100. He played here last year, finished 53rd, coming off the top 10 at the Heritage. Nobody will be on him. Really good putter. He tends to be his strength. Very accurate off the tee, which isn't going to matter here. He doesn't hit it super, super long. I mean, he can get it out there. In Australia, at the Australian PGA Championship, he averaged 325 off the tee. I don't know if they were playing at like 10,000 feet or something, but so I mean, he can get it out there, and I think he's totally fine. He's rating up pretty high in the old Labs Mall here, so 7,100, I like him quite a bit. And then last but not least, 7,000, Adam Shank, 59th here last year, coming off 13th at the Wells Fargo, miscut the Heritage, 7th at the Texas Open. He's playing really good golf and just making a lot of birdies. He will throw in your bogeys, so buyer beware on that. But at 7,000, I like him quite a bit. I like him.
Yeah, he's a pretty good one down there at the 7K range that could get you through the cut line. He's better than a 7K golfer in this field. Yeah, I'm with you there 100%. Nick Watney at 74, just a guy just consistently not going to win it for you, but playing good golf, coming off a nice cut this past week at the Wells Fargo T31. Missed his previous two cuts, but we know Nick, and he's not the same Nick Watney of old, but $7,400 in this field. I will give him a shot. A couple that burned myself and others last week, Wyndham Clark and Sung Kang, Sung Kang, $7,300. Both these guys were coming in very good form before last week, and both of them made a disaster of the week. I think going back to I like Clark more than Kang, but I think both can be very interesting plays, low ownership type plays with upside at $7,300 this week, burning people, jump back on that train before they heat up again. Brian Gay, cash game wise, is a cut machine. He likes this course, and he's made 4 straight cuts, but he's not containing the T46 best finish. So cash game only, but if you're looking for a cheaper guy to get through the weekend, look at Brian Gay. A couple others for you here. You mentioned Troy Merritt. I like that call quite a bit. But Nick Taylor at $7,000, he's made 14 of 17 cuts this year, and he's made like 8 straight on tour, all the way going back to AT&T Pebble Beach. He finished T54 last week. He's got his best finish over that time is a T16 at the Players. So he's hit and miss, but he's making cuts at $7,000. I like that. I like the Shank call. And the last one is Kramer Hickok at $7,000. Not coming into the greatest form. A T60 at the Wells Fargo, missed cut at Valero, then a 10th at Punta Cana. But at $7,000, a little bit of upside there in Texas. It's going to be messy in the low 7s and 6K range. So I like that Shank call a lot at $7,000. I think you could have some fun with that one. I'll just go real quick. I have 2 guys I wrote down for 6K. Maybe I'll find more later, but I'm going to go back to the usual suspects. Julian Etuin made another cut. That's what he does. He kind of shit the bed over the weekend, but he made the cut, got through for you. And then you mentioned him last week. I've been on him a couple times. Hank LaBoida, he did it. He played okay again. So those would be the 2 guys I'd be looking at. Not much else catches my attention at the moment. What about you?
Yeah, I've got Hank checked off here. I've got 2 others. Alex Prug, I don't know, at 69 this week. He didn't play here last year, but coming off a 31st at the Wells Fargo, just rates out high on the Labs model. It's the only reason I've got him checked off. And then Jim Knus. I don't know if the K is silent or not.
I think it's like Noose or Nouse, but I don't know either.
Noose, yeah, Noose probably makes sense. Anyways, 13th last week at the Wells Fargo Texas Open, he was 63rd. So at 6,600, I think that's about as low as I would go here. Most likely the winner comes from below 6,600, though. I mean, just going off past
the way it's going,
past shit. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, so those would be my three. You know, obviously Hank, I was on him last week too, and he didn't have a very good weekend, but and he almost completely came out of it on Friday, but he made it through. So
yeah, I was really happy when Friday ended and saw how well he played. I'm like, okay, sweet, we got this. You're coming in strong, and then, no, not at all.
Yeah, he was up and down, man.
I should tell people my lineups Friday night, so you know who to fade on the showdowns on the weekend.
You could just sell them like that could be a new tout site.
Yeah, literally, these guys played great, and they're going to shit the bed on the weekend. So don't play these guys, fade these guys. Like I've had so many 6-6s barely cash this year; it's unbelievable.
We'll tout who's going to be shitty. Yeah.
Yes.
We could just use our picks probably.
Oh, now we got
this. Anyways, you're still doing just fine. Like, been a rough year for Jesse.
It's been a rough go. It's a grind, to say the least, as it always is. Let's recap the pricing real quick. Kind of give our top plays from each bracket of prices. 10K and above, you got Brooks, Matsuyama, Spieth, Stenson, Leishman. Who's your number one play not named Brooks Koepka?
Yeah, it'd be Hideki for me.
Okay. For me, it'll be – I'll say Leishman, but I have a feeling I'm going to get attracted to Stenson as the week goes on. I'm going to say Leishman right now. 9K, pretty solid range here. Reed, M, Wise, Grace, Killa Keith, and Sabatini. Who's your number one target here?
Keith Mitchell.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm big on Keith this week, so let's hope that rock and roll train starts and keeps going. 8K range is locked and loaded. Give me two guys in the 8K range.
Piercy and Peters.
Mine's RCB and Peters, so I like that quite a bit. If you're paying attention at home, if you start with Mitchell and Peters, you have the unanimous duo. Give me three guys in 7K.
Scheffler. Again, it kind of depends on the ownership, but anyways, 7,900 Scheffler, Stewart at 7,400, and then Troy Merritt at 71.
I got Seamus Power at 77. Fratelli at 75, and we'll go Shank at 7,000. I'll go with that one, and then we don't need to go over 6K as we kind of went on that one already. Give me three GPP plays that you'd like to build around this week.
I mean, starting with Keith and Thomas, I think that's a really cool starting spot. It's just that this course fit narrative, might do well for those two guys. And then, if you're throwing in a low owned guy, I mean, I don't mind going back to Berger. I think eventually he's going to put it together. He's now at 2 straight made cuts, and he's just not able to kind of keep it in contention for very long, if at all. But at 75, we get a price decrease in a lesser, weaker field. So,
yeah, and I want to remind everybody we don't talk about our picks beforehand, but I have Mitchell, Peters, and Piercy, so we're almost identical there. I think that's a fun GPP start to a lineup. Who do you have on your cash kind of targets?
Yeah, I would look at like Sabatini and Piercy there. I mean, that just tilts me already just saying those two names in cash. But this week is worse than last. I mean, we had a pretty good discussion in the Slack last week about how sharp pricing was last week, and that was in a much stronger field. And this pricing is good for this field, but it's tilting as I'll get out. And then Brian Stewart at 7,400.
I like it. Mine is Sabs, RCB, and Kevin Na. That would be my start to cash. All right. I already mentioned I have RCB 45-1 as a target. I have two other ones written down. What would you have? I have one's Keith Mitchell. Do you like Keith Mitchell as well?
To what now?
To win.
To win, yes. Yeah, I mean, I think Keith he could most definitely.
He's 35-1.
Yeah, that's really short for Keith Mitchell. Even though he's already won this year, so guess I got to get used to saying that as far as him being a champion on the PGA Tour. Somebody who maybe is a little bit longer odds, looking at somebody like Russell Knox.
Russell Knox, he's 60-1.
It's not terrible.
Yeah, I had Mitchell, RCB, and then Seamus Powers at 66-1. I think he could have some fun out here.
What's Peters?
Peters is 50-1.
See, I would rather bite on Peters. Yeah, I'd rather bite on Peters than I would Knox.
Yeah, I think Peters at 50-1's got some life to it for sure.
Yeah, and I would think that would come down, but maybe it won't. I don't know.
We'll see. We'll see if anybody that listens to our show goes crazy and puts out $1,000 bets on it. We'll see. But that wraps us up this week, Jesse. Any final thoughts last week before the second major of the year?
I don't, man. Tiger's back next week.
Yep, Tiger's living the dream of the best schedule ever created for golf now. So he's doing his thing.
Yeah, he's at the White House tonight.
Yep, he's not getting fast food. I'll tell you that much. So
you don't think they're feeding Tiger McDonald's?
I have a feeling him and Donald, since they're actually buddy, I think they're having a good meal tonight. Just a hunch. Probably some of that fine wine out of the cabinet over there in the White House. Imagine it's a pretty good night.
Hey, dude. What about too though? Bar Off is the one who actually mentioned this, but why was Tiger not wearing his green jacket?
That was odd. I was wondering why would you not wear that there?
They were dressed in the exact same. Like it's really odd that they were the same blue. I don't know, and the same tie.
It's very presidential look he had going on.
It was weird to me.
Yep.
Like, why would you not wear your green jacket?
Oh. That whole thing.
I wear that everywhere. I mean, dude was wearing it at the fucking restaurant with ball shorts on.
Yeah, remember when Patrick Reed won last year? He was wearing it to the Lakers games, to wherever he was. He had that damn thing on. Oh. So yeah, I think I'd be sleeping in that thing.
Yeah,
but for Tiger, it's no big deal. He's got plenty of them. He'd probably grab the wrong one on accident. Didn't fit him anymore.
Good.
But all right, that wraps us up. Check out Jesse on Twitter at DFS Golf Gods. Podcast at Always Press DFS. If you give us a rating and review on iTunes, we much appreciate it. I'm on Twitter at BDintric, and we'll be back with you next week. But for now, this was the Always Pressing PGA DFS podcast previewing the 2019 AT&T Byron Nelson Classic. Catch you guys next time.